Let me ask you something. Have you ever liked a woman? You talked for hours. You listened to her problems. You helped her when she was sad. You were always there. And then one day she says something that completely crushes you. She looks at you, smiles, and says, "I'm so glad I have a friend like you." And in that moment, you realize exactly where you are. Before we dive deeper, a quick message. If you've been learning from my videos and you want to support this work, you can subscribe to me on Facebook with a paid membership, send stars, or join my YouTube channel's paid community. Your support helps me create more powerful content for you, and I truly appreciate every bit of it. All right, now let's continue. The friend zone. Now here's the part most people won't tell you. The friend zone usually doesn't happen suddenly. It happens slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. And by the time you realize it, you're already deep inside it. But here's something even more interesting. Escaping the friend zone is almost impossible, unless one specific psychological shift happens. And today, we're going to talk about exactly what that shift is. Because once you understand it, you'll start seeing why some men stay just friends forever, while others somehow flip the situation completely. And trust me, this difference is not about looks. It's not about money. It's not about being some mysterious bad boy with a leather jacket. It's about psychology. But before we go deeper, take a quick second to like the video and subscribe. Because on this channel, we talk about the truth about attraction, psychology, and human behavior that most people never explain. Now let's continue. First, we need to understand why the friend zone happens in the first place. Because most men completely misunderstand it. They think the friend zone happens because they were too nice. But that's not actually the real reason. Women don't lose attraction because someone is kind. They lose attraction because of something else. Predictability. You see, attraction needs emotional tension. It needs mystery. It needs the feeling that something might happen. But the moment a woman feels 100% certain about your intentions, and 100% certain that you will always be there no matter what, something changes. The dynamic becomes safe, comfortable, stable, but not exciting. And attraction rarely grows in complete emotional safety. Think about your favorite movie. Any movie. Now imagine if in the first 5 minutes, you already knew exactly how every scene would play out. Every line of dialogue, every twist, every ending. Would you still feel anything watching it? Probably not, because emotion needs uncertainty to survive. That's not a cruel fact, it's just how the human brain works. And attraction follows the same rule. This is the first mistake most men make. They try to prove their loyalty. They try to show they're different. They try to demonstrate they would never hurt her. But ironically, the more they try to prove it, the more they lock themselves into the role of emotional support character, not romantic possibility. There's actually a name for this pattern in psychology. It's called over-signaling. When you work too hard to communicate something, the very effort itself becomes suspicious. Or worse, boring. Think about it this way. If someone walked up to you on the street and said, "Trust me, I'm a really trustworthy person," would you immediately trust them? Of course not, because trustworthy people rarely need to announce it. The same principle applies to attraction. The more desperately you try to prove your value, the more it signals that you're unsure of it yourself. And people are attracted to certainty. Not just physical certainty, inner certainty. The quiet confidence of someone who knows who they are, without needing someone else to confirm it. Now here's where things get interesting. Because once you're in the friend zone, most men try the worst strategy possible. They try harder. They give more attention, more compliments, more emotional support. They think eventually she'll realize, "This guy is amazing. I should date him." But attraction doesn't work like a reward system. Women don't suddenly feel desire because someone earned enough points. Desire is emotional, instinctive, and sometimes even irrational. You've probably seen this yourself. A woman complains about someone who treats her poorly, and yet she keeps going back, while the guy who genuinely cares about her stays stuck in the friend zone. That's not because she's broken, or confused, or making bad choices. It's because attraction and logic live in completely different rooms in the brain. And trying to use logic to unlock emotional attraction is like using a car key to open a padlock. Wrong tool entirely. Which brings us to the most important truth about the friend zone. You cannot logically negotiate attraction. You can't talk someone into wanting you. You can't explain your way into her heart. And that's exactly why so many men stay stuck there for years. They keep hoping the emotional investment will eventually pay off. They keep thinking, if I just do one more thing, if I'm just a little more understanding, if I just wait a little longer. But waiting doesn't change perception. And here's the psychological reality. When someone already sees you as safe and predictable, the brain categorizes you differently, more like a brother, a confidant, a support system, not a romantic challenge. This categorization happens faster than most people realize. Research in social psychology suggests that first impressions and early patterns are incredibly sticky. Once the brain puts someone in a mental category, it takes significant disruption to reclassify them, which is why just being nicer, or more present, or more available doesn't work. It only reinforces the existing category, and attraction often needs a little bit of uncertainty. Not cruelty, not games, just the genuine, authentic sense that this person has their own world, their own direction, their own life that doesn't revolve around you. That's what creates genuine intrigue. Now here's the moment that changes everything. The shift that makes escaping the friend zone actually possible. And it's surprisingly simple. But simple doesn't mean easy. You stop trying to convince her to see you differently, and instead, you change how you exist in her world, because the real key to escaping the friend zone isn't persuasion, it's perception. If she keeps seeing the same version of you, the same predictable patterns, the same emotional availability on demand, nothing will change. But when your behavior suddenly becomes different, something unusual happens in her mind. Curiosity. And curiosity is the beginning of attraction. Think about it. The moment someone becomes less predictable, your brain starts paying attention. You start wondering, what changed? Why does he feel different now? Is he okay? Is he seeing someone? Suddenly, you're occupying space in her thoughts that you didn't before. And occupied thoughts are powerful. This is why sometimes women suddenly become interested in a guy, right when he stops chasing them. It's not a manipulation trick, it's psychology. The dynamic changed. And when the dynamic changes, perception changes too. Because her brain starts asking a question it never asked before. Wait, am I about to lose this person? And loss, or even the possibility of loss, triggers a reassessment of value. Something that was always available suddenly feels different when it might not be. That's human nature, not just in romance, in everything. But there's another layer most people miss, and this part might surprise you. Sometimes the friend zone isn't just about attraction, it's about energy. Some men interact with women like they're asking for approval. Their tone, their body language, their conversations. Everything subtly communicates one message: I hope you like me. It shows up in the way they over-explain their opinions, in how quickly they change their mind when she disagrees, in the way they respond to her texts within 30 seconds, every single time, in how they drop everything the moment she calls. None of these things are bad on their own, but when they form a consistent pattern, they communicate something that quietly destroys attraction: neediness. And neediness isn't about how much you care, it's about whether your emotional state depends on her response. When your mood is up because she texted you, and down because she didn't, she can feel that. People can always feel that. And it creates an unconscious pressure that pushes people away. But attraction usually grows in the opposite direction. It grows when someone feels chosen, not when they feel like they're judging an applicant. The moment you stop seeking validation, your presence becomes different, more grounded, more confident, and strangely, more attractive. There's actually a term for this concept: internal locus of control. It simply means that your sense of self-worth comes from inside you, not from external approval, not from how she responds to your messages, not from whether she chose you. Men who have this quality walk into a room differently. They speak differently. They hold eye contact without it feeling desperate. They can take or leave a situation without falling apart. And that energy, that quiet self-assurance, is incredibly attractive. Because it's rare. Now I want to share something most dating advice ignores. Escaping the friend zone doesn't mean suddenly becoming cold or rude. It doesn't mean ignoring her. It doesn't mean pretending you don't care. Those tactics are obvious, and they usually backfire, because people can tell the difference between someone who genuinely has their own life and someone who is fake busy trying to manufacture scarcity. Authenticity is the key. It means becoming less emotionally dependent on her reaction. It means actually building a life that excites you, picking up that hobby you've been putting off, investing in friendships you've been neglecting, pursuing goals that have nothing to do with her. When your mood, your attention, your time is no longer centered around her, she starts noticing something unfamiliar: independence. And independence creates mystery. Mystery creates curiosity. And curiosity is one of the strongest psychological triggers of attraction. Here's what's interesting about this. The moment you start genuinely investing in yourself, something shifts, not just in how she sees you, but in how you see yourself. And that internal shift is actually more important than any external result. Because when you feel genuinely good about who you are, you stop needing the friend zone situation to resolve itself in your favor. You stop counting on her to validate your worth, and paradoxically, that is often when things begin to move. But there's one more truth that many people don't want to hear. Sometimes, even when you change everything, the attraction still doesn't appear. And that's okay. Not every connection is meant to become romantic. Not every friendship contains hidden potential waiting to be unlocked. And one of the most emotionally mature things a person can do is recognize when someone has genuinely decided. Not out of bitterness, not out of defeat, but out of self-respect. Because the biggest mistake someone can make is waiting forever for someone who already decided. Months turn into years. Years turn into a chapter of your life spent orbiting someone else's story instead of writing your own. The most powerful thing you can do isn't chasing someone who sees you as a friend. It's continuing your life with confidence and direction, moving forward, genuinely, not as a tactic, not to make her jealous, but because your life deserves to be lived fully. Ironically, that's often the moment when things shift, because when someone realizes they might actually lose your attention, they start reassessing your value. Human psychology works like that. Scarcity creates importance. Absence creates clarity. And sometimes, distance reveals what closeness had been hiding. But the moment you truly understand this, something interesting happens. You stop obsessing over escaping the friend zone. And instead, you start becoming the kind of person who rarely ends up there in the first place. Because the friend zone isn't really a trap someone puts you in. It's a pattern of behavior, of energy, of self-perception. And patterns can be changed, not overnight, not with tricks or scripts or manipulation tactics, but through genuine internal growth. When you know who you are, when you're genuinely excited about your own life, when your happiness isn't waiting on someone else's decision, you naturally carry yourself differently. You set boundaries without anger. You express interest without desperation. You care without losing yourself. And that version of you is fundamentally different to be around. That's the real transformation. Not escaping one specific friend zone situation, but becoming someone who moves through the world with enough self-respect that the friend zone rarely has anywhere to take hold. Now I'm curious about something. Have you ever been stuck in the friend zone before? And what do you think caused it? Let me know in the comments. I read them all. And if you found this video interesting, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel, because here we talk about the deeper truths behind human behavior, attraction, and psychology. And if you want to understand even more about how people think and why relationships work the way they do, check out the other videos on this channel. Some of them might completely change how you see human nature. I'll see you in the next video.